Hi, good day. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kathy Keneally, and I have the absolute privilege today of asking a few questions of James Lee, who is the new but quite accomplished chief of the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. And usually I would take this opportunity to give you his career background and some more of an introduction. But I actually think he tells it better than I will. So, Jim, why don't you give us a couple of minutes about your background and how you get to this position? And
Oh,
congratulations on this well-deserved position.
yeah, thank you, Kathy. I greatly appreciate the opportunity that you're giving me to talk about CI today, and just hope everybody's staying safe out there. Yeah, I'll quickly just give you my background. I started off as a special agent in our Detroit field office back in 1995. Um, I followed our succession planning almost to a T within CI. I moved down to Baton Rouge as a frontline supervisor. From there, I came into our headquarters office in DC. I worked within our international section for about 18 months, spent quite a bit of time overseas in our international section. I spent about another 10 months in our financial crime section, which is about 75% of what we do. After that, I entered our senior leadership ranks. I was an ASAC, our assistant special agent in charge in Boston. For all the New England states, I was responsible for Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. Rhode Island and Connecticut were was our other branch, the two branch office. Thereafter, my family and I love Louisiana so much. There was an opportunity for the special agent in charge position down in New Orleans, which I was assigned. It was my first SAC position. From there, I entered our executive ranks as a special agent in charge in Chicago. That's one of our bigger offices. It's an executive office for us. And after that, our prior chief, Don Fort, was then the deputy chief. And then he asked me to come in as our director of strategy. And that's where I really learned the business, behind CI. Great opportunity for me, a great learning opportunity. From there, I was our director of field operations in our northern region and southern region. That's where all the special agents in charge reported to me. And then for the past 15 months, I've had the opportunity to serve as our deputy chief up until October 1 when I got the chief role. So I understand the agency from the inside, as I've worked here my entire adult career. I'm incredibly proud of our CI mission, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed every position that I've held. And I'm just honored to represent CI as the chief, and confident that the experience that I've gained throughout my 25 plus year career have prepared me well, for this position. And I'll just kind of close with, I'm really grateful to have Jim Robnett, another, career special agent, be selected and serve as the deputy chief. And I plan to take full advantage of the wealth of experience he also brings to the.
Let me say that having spent the overwhelming majority of my career on the other side, in a brief and wonderful stint in the government, those of us in this area know CI as just the premier investigative force. I mean, just incredibly talented, smart, diligent, able to trace the money, figure out what went on, in just a guiding light of the government in a lot of ways. And I think it is great, just wonderful to have somebody leading it that knows it from the inside and so well. So that's all welcome news. For our participants, our attendees, what can you let us know about what CI does and how it functions within the service to give everybody that background?
Yeah, it's a good question because I think a lot of times, a criminal division and a civil agency, how does that work? So I'll quickly tell you how we fit into the service overall, especially if you haven't interacted with us, a CI in the past, those listening. So, our mission is pretty straightforward. We serve the American public by investigating criminal tax violations. That's our main priority. However, if you watch the news, we also investigate other financial related crimes, namely in that money laundering and bank secrecy arena. We spend a significant amount of time there. But from an IRS relevance perspective, we play a significant deterrent role within the service. And the reason I say that is people need to know there's a consequence for being willfully non-compliant. And that consequence is jail time, which is far different than paying a fine to resolve an issue. So a couple unique things about CI. We're the only U.S. law enforcement agency authorized to investigate and recommend federal tax violations. And we're the only federal agency that dedicates 100% of our time to financial investigation, thereby really protecting the integrity of the overall financial system. That makes us unique. One thing I would say is we work closely with the Department of Justice Tax Division and the U.S. Attorney's Office, because keep in mind, we investigate and recommend prosecution. DOJ Tax and the U.S. Attorney around the country actually prosecute the case. We really rely on collaboration with our other civil operating divisions within the IRS, specifically for fraud referrals in the tax arena. And we often partner with revenue agents and revenue officers as technical tax experts in our tax investigation. Equally important, we our relationships and collaborations with organizations outside of the service. I mentioned U.S. Attorney's Office, DOJ Tax, but federal, state, and local law enforcement partners as well as banks and FinCEN and contractors, etc. All these public-private partnerships are woven into everything we do within our mission. We have 21 special agent in charge offices around the country. We're stationed in 11 foreign posts. We've got 20 plus people overseas at any given time. We're about 2,100 roughly sworn law enforcement officers, about another 900 investigative analysts and administrative type staffing. And we work a broad range of statutes. And from a chief's perspective, I need to make sure there's balance within all these statutes and all these programs that we have to drive deterrence. Some of them are like, employment tax, international tax fraud, refund fraud, identity theft, abusive promoters, cryptocurrency cases, money laundering, narcotics, terrorism, public corruption, you name it. The list goes on. It's a very broad range of statutes. We about 75% of my business, though, in CI are on tax investigations or tax-related investigations. But another 12% of the time we spend in investigation is pure narcotics. And that last 12%, if you're keeping a tally, that's where that pure money laundering, Bank Secrecy Act, counterterrorism, other financial fraud. So our conviction rate is amongst the highest in federal law enforcement. And I bring that up to suggest that if CI has you in your crosshairs, really good chance you're going to see some jail time out of it. 92% historically. 95% if it's just tax related. Our agents do about 6 months down at our academy in Brunswick, Georgia. First 3 months is like a police academy like you would think of it. Firearms, defensive tactics, undercovers, how to conduct arrests, search warrants, etc. Police academy thing. And then the last 3 months is more of our advanced kind of methods of proof specific to our job and financial investigation. So I like to tell people that elevator talk. I like to tell people, if you think about it, most federal crimes, other than random acts of violence, occur to make money. And so as a result, we can work and really get involved in any case from a financial aspect. I simply, in my leadership team, we simply have to be selective on what cases we get involved in due to the limited resources we have.
Thank you. That speaks very well to the breadth of what CI does, and I appreciate that. As the person now getting to be in charge and run everything, can you give us a sense of your top priorities?
I could we could do a couple hours on that topic, but let me just give you a couple for sake of our time. Especially since I was a deputy chief for 15 months coming into this position, I feel that CI is on a great path right now. Things are going well, and any momentum that was briefly paused due to the pandemic is picking back up or has picked back up. And that's a good thing, as many of our priorities and initiatives that we had ongoing, carrying forward from, fiscal year 20 are still extremely relevant. Tweaks here and there, yes, to the priorities, but that goes without being said. But we're on a good path and going in the right direction. Our mission is going to remain the same. You're all probably interested in that. We're going to investigate criminal tax violations. That's my priority, in addition to those other crimes. But my highest priority is to enforce the country's tax law. So our tax mission focus is it. That's my number one. I'm incredibly happy about the focus in this area over the past several years, and it makes sense because, as I mentioned, nobody else can do this work. That's how I articulate our relevance within the service, and that's how we get funded. So to be successful with our tax mission, I have to ask my field office to continue focusing on case development and case selection. And that all just revolves around the concept that we have to ensure, that we're selecting the most significant cases to put in inventory due to those limited resources we have. And the way we do that is with robust case development that ideally covers all of our program priorities, that touches every social status. You probably heard our commissioner say that, not just the rich. Our commissioner now, as you all probably know, is very supportive of fraud and the fraud referral program. And it's good because I'm a firm believer that our best tax investigation should be generated from our civil counterparts. From a deterrence perspective, I need to make sure, we need to make it feel or appear that we have, I'll call the police unit in every neighborhood on every corner. So tax investigations covering that broad range of program priorities that I mentioned, with significant communication is how we do this. And the same goes for all of our non-tax investigations as well. Hiring is a huge priority of mine moving forward. I've got to make sure that we've got the people in place to, kind of feed the pipeline. Reinforced emphasis is really necessary, due to COVID. It's had an impact on getting our special agent ranks where we want them. We had significant momentum in fiscal year 20 to hire 240 agents. We fell slightly short of that in fiscal year 20, due to our onboarding process being delayed because of COVID. And a lot of that has to do with, medical clinics being shut down, and our special agents go through a pretty rigorous medical screening before they get hired. That was delayed because of all the shutdown of the clinics. In addition to some of the proctored testing that we do before agents are hired, those sites were shut down as well. So I mentioned earlier, we've got about 2,100 special agents. The challenge we always face is our special agent attrition every year is about 140 a year. So it's challenging to maintain, let alone plus up when you take that into consideration. So our goal in fiscal year 21, my goal, and I have support for, is 288 special agents. That is exactly 24 class, 12 classes down at the academy this year. And our commissioner is supportive of CI. In fiscal year 22 and beyond, I'm going to be pushing for 10 to 12 classes worth of special agents each fiscal year, each calendar year. And my intention is to deliver results. And that puts the commissioner in a hard spot to say no, or at least it makes it an incredibly hard decision for him. As there's great work going on throughout the entire service. With all those hires, it goes without being said, training is a huge priority of mine, and training those new special agents. It's hard to do 12 classes a year, and we had significant training in fiscal year 20 on the books. A lot of that, our academy was shut down due to COVID for a while. And there's still a lot of significant uncertainties out there, but I have to be prepared and put CI in a position to run those classes. And there's significant resources that are necessary to do that. So big priority. The last one, Kathy, that I'll talk about quickly is data and technology. And if you've heard me speak before, or Don Ford, our prior chief, or anybody, we talk a lot about data and technology. And I'm going to just put them together. This is another area where we've made incredible strides, but now is not the time for CI to relax, as we've got a lot of momentum in this area. And I say that I got to put this is a big priority because I've got to ensure that our personnel are equipped with the resources and tools they have to do the job in the 21st century. So we continue to evolve in our data analytic capabilities with our nationally coordinated investigation unit and establishment of our applied analytics section, which you've probably heard about. We're getting better at that every day. And that helps with the case selection that I mentioned, earlier. The huge challenge and the gap now revolves around processing all this data we collect and legally have access to, so that we can be more efficient around the country as opposed to just being stovepipe. We get the job done, but we can become more efficient. So there's two areas that need continued emphasis and maturity as I see it. We're making significant investments in a I'm going to call it a law enforcement network. And it's going to be used to support those investigative activities that we can't do on the broader service IRS network. And a lot of that really just, I'm not the tech person, but in short, a lot of that has to do with a lot of the unstructured data that our agents gather throughout the course of their investigations daily, in addition to all the other cyber data that's out there. So we can get it and we have access to all this, but then we're not equipped to deal with it efficiently. We're good at it, but efficiently around the country. So significant opportunity for improvement in how we use and manipulate, all this data we gather. This network's a huge area there, and equally important, we're in the process of building out I'll call it a collaboration center, a task force, think of it, a national task force, which puts ourselves in a position to use all this data we collect. So this is where public-private partnerships are so important. I'm gonna bring CI subject matter experts, cyber agents, contractors, treasury and other IRS business units, all under the same roof, so to say, and they're going to be equipped with the tools to tackle the most notable cyber challenges that the special agents around the country see daily. And the concept I'm referring to here has been used in, singularly in many of the recent, cyber crypto cases that have received so much notoriety in the recent past. And what I'm talking about is our welcome to video case. That's the largest darknet marketplace for child exploitation. 330 arrests, 23 kids actively saved that were being harmed. Helix was another recent investigation, like 300 million laundered through a mixing service. That was a dark web market dealing mainly in narcotics. BitClub Network was another recent one. That was like a crypto Ponzi scheme, about 722 million. Recent Twitter hack, which there's been a lot of publicity on, and Bitcoin Hamas, which was another one that I had the opportunity to be part of here recently. And that was an investigation around cryptocurrency fundraising for terrorist organizations. So the vision is that the model used for those investigations singularly can be replicated to help all the agents around the country in any type of investigation they have where there's a cyber challenge. And while all those are really revolving around the crypto cyber world, the concept can be applied to every tax investigation where you have a cyber challenge. So the network and this task force is going to drastically change the way we do business here moving into the future. It's an exciting time to be in CI.
That was breathtaking. Thank you. There are so many topics in there that
Kathy, James?
Yeah, I can hear you, Brittany.
Okay. I just want to make sure Kathy can refresh. Okay, there you go. I'm writing down the timestamps, so don't worry. You could start from what you're about to say, Kathy.
Yeah, I think we got lucky that we froze just as I was about to ask a question. And I think we have
It
barely
was
2
2 minutes. Yeah.
I can talk pretty quick if you want to cover that last one, Kathy.
Yeah, so let me just, why don't I, are we ready to go? I'll lead it into the question.
Okay, you can go now.
Thank you for everything you've described. I'm so glad you covered the range of remarkable things in areas where CI is involved. I do want to get briefly back to fraud referrals, which has clearly been a priority. You talked about referrals from other parts of the service. There's the new Office of Fraud Enforcement, and you have about 2 minutes to share any additional thoughts with that before, unfortunately, our time runs out.
Yeah, we've got a great relationship with the new Office of Fraud Enforcement, the new promoter coordinator position, and the fraud program in general. All the operating divisions with the IRS, within IRS, are important relationships where we spend a lot of time coordinating. And these relationships have a direct impact on our tax programs. And I expect to be working with them closely on all the initiatives revolving around global high wealth, promoter investigations, employment tax, partnerships, virtual currency, high income non-filers, which you're probably going to have heard about or you're going to be hearing a lot about. And of course, our international offshore schemes, just to name a few. And I say that because these are some of the initiatives that the Office of Fraud Enforcement has, as well as priorities within the operating divisions. And it's a good thing because, as I mentioned earlier, all these fall into our broad tax program area. And, you know, I want to see referrals in all of them. And working with the Office of Fraud Enforcement and the other divisions, I mean, it only makes sense. All of the organizations within IRS play a significant role, an important role in the fraud program, which is why we partner with them so closely. Revenue agents and officers are first to talk to the taxpayer, first to talk to the return preparer, first to identify trends. They're on the front line. And it's that kind of frontline work that generates quality fraud referrals. I'll quickly end, Kathy. My comments are supported by results. For cases that we recommend to DOJ for prosecution that were actually generated from a fraud referral, we have a 95% conviction rate. That demonstrates the partnership works. So that again, tying it and ending, that success is why I feel our strongest tax cases should come from referrals within the IRS. And in fact, we encourage the operating divisions to identify and develop quality fraud referrals every day in all of our programs.
And let me just end by saying thank you for sharing all of your thoughts, a lot for people to think about, and thank you for your service.
Thanks for your time, and everybody stay safe.
Take care.